Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of How to Father. Thank you guys so very much, and thank you, Vincent Chavez, for being a wonderful guest. Episode 1, we had a really good time there, and a lot of good topics, talking about fatherhood, single dad, also talking about being a sole provider, as well as a full-time single dad there. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Great guest today, Dwight Coleman Jr. And we met officially in Denver. His son, we have kiddos that are the same age. He is blessed to be a Ravens fan. And we all know, I mean, we'll talk more about it here in a few. You know, there's no jabs going on, but the king is in the castle. King Henry is in Baltimore. So
Titans. So, you know, it hurts, man. It hurts.
Yeah.
For y'all.
So yeah, that's one of the things. It's funny, you're going to be one of two Titans fans on the season. We have another Titans fan coming on. He's a teacher, big time Titans fan, and he was happy-ish. I want to say happy when Derrick Henry came over. But football aside, everything else aside, you're a wonderful father. That's the one main reason why I wanted you on this podcast. We had coffee, breakfast a couple months back, and just your story, everything you've done, not just for your kids' lives, but a lot of different kids' lives in this in our state. That really is kind of a countrywide spread in what you're doing there. So I think it was really excited to get you on the podcast here. So tell us a little about yourself. Welcome.
Oh, right on, man. Well, I'm very happy to be here, man. I discovered your podcast through a coworker, mutual friend, that we found out that we had, and I got in the first episode and got hooked, man. So I was like, I gotta, link up with them and see if we can, and do the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So pretty excited about being here. It's funny because I was thinking about it and I was a little nervous, I'm like, I've never done, anything like this before, but, it's just conversation, man, just two dads talking, and so that'll be nice and smooth. So a little bit about myself, man. I am originally I was born in Valdosta, Georgia.
Okay.
My dad was military, so we were in Moody Air Force Base out there. Me and my sister were born out there, and then we kind of moved all over the place. So from Georgia to Illinois, from Illinois to Florida, Florida to Texas, Texas to Italy, Italy to New Mexico. And this is where home has been the last, I moved out here pretty much my senior year of high school.
Okay,
so, been out here, since then, 30-some years or whatever. So this is home. New Mexico is home.
New Mexico is home, yeah. I was born Army brat, so born in Killeen, Texas, Fort Hood. Yeah. And then we ended up in Maryland, and my mom got out of the Army, et cetera. My mom and dad were both in the Army.
Okay.
And we ended up out here when I was about in high school. And everyone's like, I still rock Maryland, still got my Maryland stuff, but New Mexico is home. New Mexico is home. It's a good place here. So, so you moved to New Mexico, of course, did all that stuff like that.
Yep.
And what I know you with your work, with your kids, et cetera. What was the main? Because I think a lot of people, I think this is maybe a good topic. A lot of people think they see the stats, they hear this, the Breaking Bad, the whatever, about Albuquerque and about New Mexico, how it's not and it's pretty low in a lot of rankings of raising family.
For sure.
We both have our families were raised here. Both our kids are New Mexicans, really, at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on raising kids in New Mexico? I mean, as a young adult kid, because when I first moved out here, I was like, what in God's green earth am I doing out here? There's no water, there's no green, it's dry, it's this, there's cactus, there's snakes. Yeah. And my brother and I, remember we were like, we're going to go fish at the Rio Grande. Yeah. We were so excited. We learned about this in school. It borders Texas and Mexico. It's this grand river. We show up, we're like, we have creeks that's bigger, deeper, and more abundant than this thing. What is this mud pretty much trickle going down the road? But, I appreciate the Rio Grande. Rio Grande's a beautiful river now. But as a kid, I was like, what? I don't want to be here. I want to be back with my friends.
Definitely.
Back where it's green, where it's this, where it's that, more vibrant.
Right.
So I know you had that transition coming in high school. That's probably a big jump.
Yeah.
And now raising your own family here, what are your thoughts on, and that's probably a very wide open question, but
for sure,
on New Mexico, about raising kids, raising your family here in this state?
Yeah, for sure. New Mexico for me, when I moved out here, it was a huge culture shock. Moved out here, like I said, into my junior year, going into my senior year, and coming from Italy, man, we had, I don't know, like 300 kids in our entire school.
Yeah.
I'm talking 8th grade through senior year. I would have had a graduating class of maybe 30 kids or something like that, you know, somewhere around there, whatever, small numbers. I remember, you know, I graduated from Highland High School. So I remember going there my first day and I was like, it looked like a college campus, you know what I mean? And you know, 2,500 kids or something crazy.
Yeah.
But the biggest like shock for me was what I noticed was, you know, it was like all the black kids kind of hung out, all the white kids kind of hung out, the Asian kids, Hispanic kids. It was all kind of like segregated to some extent, right? And then you had a sprinkled in white dude in the black clique. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of sprinkled in like that. So that was different.
And that's the craziest dude that Dave Chappelle said.
Yeah.
The dude you don't mess with is the white dude hanging out.
Oh, for sure. No lie, man. No lie on that for sure. So, you know, that was a culture shock. You know, it was like I didn't, you know, growing up military, you know, I was around everything, you know, you know, black, white, Hispanic, everything. Exactly. All just kind of hung out and you know, especially like my Italy friends and family, I call them, because, you know, we're still close. A lot of my friends from Italy, from high school, like we're still close. That's awesome. So Aviano, you know, they've had reunions. You know, we're all still close. Like two of my best friends, you know, one's in New York, one's actually in Germany. And so, you know, we're still tight. You know, we get together and it's like nothing changed. It's like we're back in high school again.
You know, speak Italian or speak any?
So when I lived there, I took Italian class. And I could understand it pretty well. Yeah. I could speak it all right.
Okay.
I lived in the South the majority of my life. Right? Okay. So Texas, Florida, Georgia.
So you got that draw.
Tennessee, like draw, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it sounded funny. You know? Italian sounded funny when I spoke it. So I didn't like to speak it too fair. So I moved to New Mexico and I would hear some people talking Spanish and I was like, I can kind of understand it, you know?
Yeah. Very similar.
You know, but never picked it up. I kick myself now because I'm like, man, I should have stuck with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Well, that's something I wish. I mean, I'm half Mexican. And, of course, I mean, if you've heard the podcast, my dad was in our lives.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you could at least give us some Spanish sauces or something, man. Especially moving out here, and that was the same thing. It was funny because when I moved out here, my first high school was Highland High School.
Oh, okay.
And I tell people this all the time, like, there's nice brand new schools are nice. Highland is one of the most unique high schools because it's a campus. It's a college campus. You got that big center, courtyard. You have buildings here. You got the auxiliary building. You got the pool. You got this. And so it's a big campus. You got auxiliary fields kind of off campus right across the road. There's a little soccer field down there. And it was the same thing. It was very segregated where you had like your Hispanics, they're over here, your blacks. We had a lot of Japanese kids or Asian kids. And we played this game. It was like hacky sack, but it was with a spring and a feather. And I bought some years ago for the kids, and it's fun. And they used to just kick the crap out of that thing. And I was like, man, that looks fun. So we joined in, and they were the coolest kids. And it was really cool, real fun thing with Highland High School. It was so diverse because growing up back east, it was predominantly African American.
Sure.
You had like your Dominicans, Puerto Ricans. You had like your white kids, you had stuff like that. But it was predominantly African American.
For sure.
Coming out here, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like we got everyone, every little mix here. And then of course Highland High School is the like base high school. It's right by Coleman Air Force Base. So if you're in the Air Force, that's the school you go to. And so you had a very good mix of kids there. Fun fact, Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
That's if you look at the school, that's Highland High School. The creator is from Highland, and so was Van Morrison from the Doors.
Oh, really? I didn't. Now that I did not know. Beavis and Butthead, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, Van Morrison from the Doors went to Highland High School. So if you listen to "Light My Fire" by the Doors, think of Highland High School. Go Hornets, the Hornets of Highland High School. But yeah, so you moved here, went to Highland. Everything else now you're raising a family here. So I know it's a big jump. Raising your boys, girl here, your daughter here. Tell us about that because, and tell us kind of your fatherhood. So. You have your son.
Yep. So I have my son. So I have one biological blood child. That's my son, Davion. He's 10 now. I have two daughters, stepdaughters, Giselle and Jalera. Giselle's 23. If I get that wrong, I apologize, but 23.
Yeah.
And Jalera's 20.
Okay.
It's kind of, is Giselle 23? Hold on. Yeah, I think they're 23.
Around there.
And then I have my adopted son, Leo, who's 21, who just turned 21 in May. So it's been an unusual journey, I would say, to some extent, because I took a kind of I mean, a lot of guys do this. You know, they meet a woman. You know, she has kids. You know, they kind of step into that stepfather role, and so that's pretty much what happened with me. You know, I met a beautiful woman, and you know, she had a daughter. One was 8, one was 5, and that's when I came into the picture, and you know, kind of jumped into the stepfather role pretty quick.
Okay.
You know, her and I met. You know, got together, and you know, pretty quickly I met the girls, which you know, she was, you know, I say a single mother at the time because her and her husband, you know, had divorced, and she was pretty much raising her girls. Her ex-husband was a professional basketball player overseas, so he wasn't around a lot, and by no means am I gonna knock him whatsoever, right? Because he's also a father, and he's also, you know, this is How to Father podcast, right?
Exactly.
And you know, he had to figure his things out, and you know, so no knock on that on him whatsoever, you know. But you know, the reality is, I came in and I kind of was in the full-time father role to begin, right? So once again, 8 and 5 is when I came in, and you know, I've been there ever since, man. Like, you know, you know, as far as being a stepfather, I think the interesting thing for me was I was trying to figure out, like, how do I balance my morals and my beliefs and how I think kids should be raised with my wife's morals and then also the other piece, the other family, the father, you know, and like, how do I balance that? How do I figure it out? And that was difficult at times, you know. It was definitely, you know, I struggled with trying to do everything perfect, right? Not to like outshine him, nothing like that, but I just wanted to make sure that like I did everything in my power to help raise them the best that what I thought, right? And then, like I said, it didn't always line up with, you know, the way that my wife saw things. It didn't always line up, you know, necessarily with the way he saw things. I would assume, but it was definitely it was a learning curve. You know, they had a pretty tumultuous relationship, divorce and all that. So there was a lot of, you know, heated phone calls and a lot of, you know, things like that. And it was honestly extremely important for me to help her to figure out how to communicate with him for the girls, right? And that's what it was, right? Like, it's like, how do I help them? Because the truth is that, you know, where there's 3 families involved right now, right? Like, we need to be in cohesion. We need to, you know, to give them the best opportunity to grow and learn and things like that. And so it was tough, you know, it was tough at times, but, you know, it was, you know, once the kids started playing sports and things like that, you know, what I didn't want was to be at a track meet and have to have, you know, the girls come to our tent and then have to go over there to his, you know, they have to kind of figure out where to go. So it was important to me to get them to the parents of these 2 girls to figure out how to communicate, get along. So the kids would have an entire, you know, nucleus to stick to, you know what I mean? That was important.
So. Well, I think you nailed it, with this. A lot of people with being a stepfather, stepmother, or any kind of step role, is you're balancing. Sadly, I've seen a lot of step parents come in that try to take over.
For sure.
A lot of stepdads will do that. I had a friend that him and his wife divorced. They had an older son, or a son together. She remarried. He had 2 kids about the same age. So then the step's kid was kind of wasn't really treated well. And the dad was like, well, my boys are this, so you're gonna be this. And there was no communication with, like, hey, but this is how we raise our kids. Because at the end of the day, no matter how the relationship split, they still have responsibility to their kids, to their girls, right? And you came in and you could have either derailed it or took over or did any stuff like that. But what you did was the most important thing as a parent, especially as fathers. You had the girls' best interests at heart.
Definitely.
It wasn't about your ego. No. It wasn't about trying to feel like I got my wife's side. You're the anti, you're the X, you're this. It was like, okay, hey, clearly this is where we're at. This is the reality of it. Let's be adults. And it's not even about my relationship with you or maybe even their relationship. It's about the vision and visual and the relationship with the girls.
Definitely.
And right there, that's the huge thing. And I know we talked about that over coffee. It really I remember just kind of just playing that over and over. And that's not even with step. You could be in a relationship with a co-parenting or even in a marriage.
Yeah.
You got to realize that at the end of the day, our communication with each other, how we talk, how we interact, the kids are seeing and listening to every little thing. And I'm guilty of that. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure tone it down or say this, or if put them to sleep, then we can have a conversation about some things that we didn't have a conversation about. But A, they see everything, and B, what are we teaching them?
Right.
We're not teaching them how to problem solve. We're not teaching them how to respect others or be respected. We're not teaching them how to do different things.
Right.
And so with that, what you're doing, what you did, and what you're probably still doing, is you said, hey, I'm going to be not just the intermediary when it comes to your relationship communicating. I want to make sure that these girls realize that, hey, you got a bonus dad.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. I love you. I'm going to take care of you. But at the same time, I understand you have a dad.
For sure.
And a lot of guys can't swallow the ego or pride to do that. And it seems like you did. So with the relationship with their dad, was it like rocky or kind of at first? Did it come to, I'm not saying you guys are boys, let's go hang out, watch the Titans lose to the Ravens on Sundays, but sorry, I had to throw that in.
No, you're good.
But it wasn't to a point where maybe a realization of like, hey, we're in this together. We're like, I got backup helping raise my kids. Yeah. Did it ever come to that?
So he and I never had a conversation like that, right?
Okay.
We never, there was never any beef between the two of us.
Okay. Yeah.
And I say that to it that doesn't mean that I agreed with everything that he did.
Yeah.
Or nor did he probably agree with everything that I did, right? But he and I never had any beef, right? Like opinions are one thing. I'm sure he had opinions of things. I had opinions of things. But like I said, we never had any issues necessarily between he and I. There were things that probably happened where maybe the girls went back to dad and said this, that, or the other, right? Because what I tried not to ever do was join in or do any of the bad mouthing that would happen towards the dad, regardless of how I felt about whatever the situation was. I tried to never join in any of that. And, I hope the girls can attest that I tried my best to do that, because I didn't want that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I didn't want that between the two of he and I didn't want the girls to feel like I'm talking bad about their dad. So, like I said, was I perfect? Probably not. But I definitely, that was a focus of mine, is to not be involved in that, and I didn't try to make excuses for him or this, that. No, it wasn't anything like that, but I tried to be understanding of his point of view.
Exactly.
Or what his point of view may have been.
Okay.
Because once again, we didn't communicate like that, but, as a man, as now a stepfather, like I had to kind of like look at things and like, maybe it was because of this, maybe he did this or said this or whatever, because of whatever that may be. Right. And so, we have been cordial.
That's good.
I can see him, it's interesting. My son is 10 now. We both have, so he now has 3 boys. So it was the 2 girls and then he has 3 boys.
Okay.
My son and his middle son, they're almost like brothers, right? Like they, because my son goes to, which this is a cool thing. My son goes to some of their family functions because his sisters are still, you know what I'm saying? They're still part of that family. And they'll take my son with them. And, he and his son are actually pretty close. They play. It was interesting. Last spring, we had a flag football team.
Okay.
And, I say we, because he and myself coached the flag football team with our sons. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So that's where the relationship is now, right? Like that's where, and I do feel like, I want to give myself credit for helping to make sure that was the case. Because the reality is we're going to have some interaction. That's the reality. You know what I mean? And we're going to be around each other. And I wanted that to always feel good. And I wanted the kids to always be able to feel good in that situation as much as possible. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, we never had that conversation, never had that talk. But, there's a mutual, I would hope that he felt that I helped raise the kids, helped raise his daughters, and was able to do that without slighting him in any way, because that was definitely none of my intention with anything, right? So I wanted this to all just kind of.
I mean, there's a lot to digest from that, but I think the best part of it is, sure, you didn't have the conversation, but it was a natural understanding.
For sure.
And I think with people these days that are very, their ego, especially comes with our kids. And we all know, we all do it.
Definitely.
If our kid does something wrong or says something wrong, our first instinct is to protect our kid instead of really seeing the big stuff, right? And that's something that it shows that, hey, we could be cool enough where I'm comfortable with you, my son with you. Yes, the daughter, his sisters are there. Yeah, but you're coaching the same team. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if in the history of sports or dad, stepdad, if that ever has happened. Like, I've never heard it. I remember seeing one time, it was a lady she was getting married. She was walking down the aisle with her biological dad. Yeah, biological dad turns around, stops, gets the stepdad to get her other arm. And of course, the whole place is just in tears. I'm watching and I'm like tearing up, like, this is beautiful. Yeah. And he was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You helped raise her. You're as much of a dad as I am to her because of that situation." And it shows one thing: the mom is there, of course. She's pretty much the neutral factor when it comes to it. But it shows between yourself and between him that your goal is to make sure the kid's best interest at heart.
Most definitely.
And like you said, he's like, I try to be perfect. We can't be perfect.
Can't be.
And as fathers, we can't allow the understanding of being perfect, or like taking that away from just being good. Yeah. We're going to slip up. We're going to mess up. We're going to do a lot of things. We're going to say things we're like, oh, shit. We're going to say sorry a lot. And that's something we should say.
We should.
But it's something that's, that's insane. We didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about that.
And I'm like, my mind is like, oh my, hold on a second. I sit there and think, like, if I was in that situation, could I coach something? Yeah. Because I know you're probably a very passionate coach. Yes. I'm a very passionate coach. And there's times where, like, I was coaching my kids' soccer team. We went out to Bernalillo, got second place in a tournament. It was the first time they were playing a club tournament. They play AYSO, first time playing a club tournament. And I'm an assistant coach. The head coach is named Makambe, great guy, great soccer mind, played soccer in college, etc. But he was coaching the little team, so the younger kids team. So he was like, hey, get the reins on it. And a lot of the dads help out, and it's good to help. And it was myself and another dad, Andrew, that we were kind of headed to coach. And a lot of the dads who help out, but they're on the sidelines, I'm like, just like, dude, just like, let us do it.
Let us do our thing.
Like, and so I understand that, hey, like, we're coaching these kids. We know what we're doing. And there's that kind of that pride that builds up. You're like, oh, shut up. Let me coach. Definitely. And I had to go over there, guys. Just stop it. Yeah. Just enough. If they're hearing your voice versus my voice, they're going to confuse the kid. Right. And I was the dad on the sidelines. Oh, do this, do that. You know how it is. You're man. Oh, especially basketball. I had to sit at the top. They were playing at Washington Middle School. Yeah. So I sat at the top bleacher. So. Yeah, and I was like, keep my mouth shut, keep my mouth shut, because they just started playing basketball this year. But that aside, it shows that that's the most important thing as fathers. Definitely. Is you took a role with two beautiful little girls, and then you're like, I'm not going to take over. I'm going to be a part of. Yeah. And that's what we're not in charge. We're not dictators to our kids. We're a part of their lives. Yep. We're helping them, mold them to be upstanding human beings, to learn, to sometimes to learn in loss, learn in victory, to do all that. I mean, speaking of the soccer game, the team we beat, they both came undefeated in the round robin. It was a team from El Paso, and we won 5-2. I mean, we played really good. And they're cheering. I said, nope, we didn't win anything yet. Yeah. We won a game. Let's do this. And then, of course, the other team, poor kids, are devastated. They're crying. The parents are cursing. And you know how youth sports are. Yes. It was funny because the ref was a white guy. Yeah. And they were like, you're racist. You're racist. And I look at it, I was like, do you see our team? Yeah. We got little black kids. We got kids from Afghanistan. We got Native American kids. We got Asian kids. We got white kids. We got Highland High School on the soccer team right here. And you're screaming at this old white guy that's like, you're racist. And then they end up beating us 2-1 in the championship game. Okay. So I remember sitting there and said, our boys, come on in. They ran in. Yeah. Everyone, I was like, keep your heads high. Like, this is the first time we played a tournament. First time we played together as a team, because it was kind of like an all-star team. I was like, you guys did great. Yeah. You know what? When you were tired, some things just didn't happen. And they're like, it's okay. Yeah. And I remember at that moment, I was like, you know what? all right, I'm doing all right at coaching.
There you go.
They shook their hands, and then they went and they like did their picture and then shook the hands of said thank you to the parents. The other parents were saying like congratulations to the kids.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I realized it ain't about our ego, because that other coach he was getting upset. He's cursing at the kids, and I'm like, you're 10-year-olds, man. Don't be cursing at them. Like, sure, when they get older, there's gonna be time where they're gonna have to get that stern, like, what the bleep are you doing type of thing. But it's like, no, hey, you know what you're supposed to do. Do this, but do that.
Right.
And I saw that. I was like, man, there's a lot of ego in this coaching.
Definitely.
But I was like, you know what, kids, let's have some fun. And they're like, who wants to get ice cream or who wants to get Pop-Pops or whatever?
Yeah.
And but at that moment, I realized, like, you know what? It's all about the kids.
It's all about the kids.
Everything we do, coach, parent, anything, it's all about the kids. If we focus on that, it becomes easy.
Definitely.
Because you're not battling that inner just hardship of I got to be perfect, or I got to be this, or I got to be the man, I got to be the person. So you went from a stepdad, and then now you had your son.
I had my son. So I'm gonna rewind a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna rewind a little bit because talking about the kind of the next part of this, which my stepson. So I'm gonna kind of bring that, or I'm sorry, I said my stepson, my adopted son. I'm gonna bring that into kind of full circle how that came about.
Okay.
So graduated high school, Highland. This was 95. And I was like, I don't really want to go to college. I don't know what I want to do at this point. I'm gonna get into the workforce, right? So, started working at, I'm pretty old. I'm 46, so, about to be 47.
You're so good, man.
Black. Hey, appreciate it, man. But, so I started working at this place called MCI, and it was like a telemarketing.
MCI.
Oh, bro.
My mom worked at MCI.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
worked
don't
on
say
MCI,
that, because we made it work together. You know what I mean? Like, MCI. I was terrible at that job, right? Terrible. Like calling people, to just harass somebody on the phone and to try to get them to switch from AT&T to MCI, whatever. You know what I mean? And I was just terrible at the job. And, the funny part about that piece is, how on Friday, the movie Friday, what's the name? Craig got fired on my day off. So I got fired on my day off. They used to do this thing called Saturday Calling, where you could come in on Saturday and try to make your quota or whatever. So I would never do it. I never met my quota. So this one time I'm close, man. I'm like within a couple calls, however it was determined back then, within a couple, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna go in on Saturday, right? So I come in on Saturday, sit my bag down, go over to the little desk. I'm sitting there making calls, yada, yada, yada. Somebody taps me on the shoulder, and I would look over, and they were like, can you come with me real quick? And I was like, dude, you know what I mean? I'm close to
Yeah.
They were like, go ahead and grab your bag. Like, you've been laid off, basically, because, I hadn't met quota the entire time that I was there. So technically I got fired on my day off. I was working extra, so, that's kind of a funny little story with that. Anyway, so after that, I was kind of in limbo trying to figure out, all right, what do I do? So I ran into a group home. Never thought about working with kids in that, aspect or whatever. I'm 19 at the time, So I think one of my other buddies was working there at the time. He was like, hey, you should fill out an application, come work here, blah, blah. So I go do that. I get hired on over there. And so I'm 19 years old. I'm working with, 16, 17-year-old kids, like trying to help them out, like, figure out how to manage emotions. I don't even know how to do that yet. You know what I mean? But I end up actually one of the kids there. And this is, I feel like to this day, like this one kid is probably the one kid that like put me on this journey of working with kids, right? Okay. His name's Josh, right? Josh was, I want to say 15, 16 at the time. And, me and it ended up being like 3 or 4 of my buddies that worked at this place. We kind of like just kind of took him under our wing and got, just real close. He didn't have much of a family, support system. And so it was something about him and the work where I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to help kids out. And I feel like with Josh, and I know he doesn't mind me saying his name, but, I feel like with him, because I'm still in contact, we're still friends to this day, which is cool. Great. I feel like that was what put me on the path. So worked at Innovative Services for, I think it was like 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that, and it closed down. Okay. And so I ended up going and working at this place, Desert Hills out on the west side. Yep. And so, adolescent, chemical dependency, autism, sex offender unit, a bunch of different, different units there. So I worked there and, still love the job. As far as like, the helping of kids, right? Like it was just, I came in every day and I felt like I had a purpose every day I went to work. You know what I mean? Some days are hard, super hard. And other days where, I didn't do anything but play basketball or, whatever, but it was just like connecting with the kids and giving them an adult to kind of look up to that showed that they cared about and that if I could be a bright spot in some kid's terrible life, that's what I wanted to be. You know what I mean? So worked there for a couple years. Ended up, I was a 20-year-old supervisor. I'm pretty much running the whole place, man. Like that was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't mature enough to do that necessarily, but I did it, and I felt like I did a decent job, and staffing coordinator, all kinds of stuff. Ended up leaving there to go to University of New Mexico Children's Psych Hospital, and I was there from, I don't even know when, 2001 till whatever. I was there for about 15 years.
Wow.
And same thing, man. Just helping kids. You know what I mean? Like just, it was important to me to come to work and to make these kids feel important. It was important to me to go in there and make these kids feel cared about. And to help them try to figure out whatever it is that I can do on my end. I have no control over the family dynamic outside of there, but if they can learn something from me while I'm there, while they're there with me, that's great. And that being said, so many times that I'm just in Albuquerque now. I'm like I said, I started at 19. I'm 46 now. That's how long I've been working with kids.
Yeah.
Where somebody will come up to me and be like, "Hey, is your name Dwight?" And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, oh, I used to work or used to, be my staff over at UNM and or Desert Hills, or whatever the case may be. And thank you so much. You were so nice, and you were, you helped me out a lot. And that, that man, the way that feels, you know what I'm saying? Like that's feeling. Like
no better feeling.
It tells me that the work that I've been doing means something. You know what I mean? So 15 years, UNM, I kind of was getting a little burnout because I was kind of as high up as I could go working at UNM. And so I needed a new challenge. And one of the therapists that I used to work with at UNM had went to this other place, which is where I'm at currently. And she was like, hey, they could really use you over here. I know you'd be great, yada, yada, yada. So I said, all right, I'll go check it out. Went and checked it out. Beautiful campus. We got horses there. We got
nice,
trampolines, and it's a privately owned facility, and it's private, so it's different. In that sense, a lot of the state funded stuff is mental. It just is what it is. And so the things that we have to offer the kids is just endless to some extent, right? Exactly. And so I got there and I was like, okay, I like this, and not only do I like this, I can see myself moving up here and like moving up in the company here, and
exactly.
And so what's interesting about the Leo story, very first kid that I met there, I was in training, and I got out of training one day. You have to push the start car, so I was at lunch one day, and I didn't turn my car off all the way. So when I went to leave that evening, my car wouldn't start, right? So one of the workers there was actually walking Leo around. He was having a tough time. They were walking him around, and they introduced me to him. Hey, Leo, this is, here's Dwight, my wife. Like, hey, nice to meet you. Boom. Fast forward a little bit, because it's such an involved story.
Exactly.
I don't want to get into every single piece of it, but just the understanding of kind of where this came from. So I wasn't close with this kid at all, right? Like, I worked there. I ended up being the supervisor there. I wasn't like close. He was just like, he was one of the kids. I'm close with all the kids, but it was like, it wasn't anything special about that situation. I was on vacation, and I get a phone call while I'm on vacation, and they were like, hey, did you hear what happened to Leo? And I'm like, no, what happened? One of the staff members that was there, so we do, I'm a crisis prevention instructor. And so with that, we teach restraints and things like that. It's just a part of the, we have, kids that hurt themselves or try to hurt others, yada, yada, yada. So, one of my other jobs is I'm a crisis prevention instructor. So they call me up, and, Leo was in a restraint. In that restraint, he got 2 of his front teeth knocked out. That's pretty unheard of. Like, I had never heard of anything like that. in anywhere that I had worked at.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so I remember coming back from vacation and seeing him, and it didn't sit right with me. Even to this day, when I think about it, like it's like it brings a little sorry.
You're good.
So anyway, that situation, it happened. At the time, we didn't have cameras, we didn't have things like that. So, technically, it was like his word versus the staff's word. You know what I mean? And he had some troubles and problems and had been aggressive and this, that, and the other. So, he kind of lost that battle to some extent, right? Like the believing a piece of what happened.
Exactly.
But that being said, what for me, what that did was like, all right, even to the point where his support system in some ways kind of blamed him. So his own family support system kind of blamed him for the situation to some extent, right? And this isn't a knock at anybody. Like, I want to make sure that, I'm being clear with all of this. Like, it is just what the situation was. You feel me? And so that happened. And to me, it was like, all right, well, I feel like I got to protect him then. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like anybody is. So I feel like that's what I need to do.
Exactly.
And so he was in our facility for a little bit longer. That's when that kind of bond kind of built between he and I. And at this time, he was like, I think 13, 14, somewhere around there. And then he ends up going, they end up moving him from there to another facility in Utah. And I had talked to his therapist, and I took him shopping for some clothes and stuff to go to the next place. And he met my family, my wife, my kids, my parents. And I mean, he's a great kid, man. He, to this day, 21 years old, he's a great kid, man. Like, he's, had one of the toughest lives that you can imagine.
Yeah.
But he's a great kid. So anyway, my family, everybody falls in love with him because that's the kind of kid he is, So I told the therapist at the time, like, hey, I talked to my wife, and she was supportive. She was like, look, if you feel like this is what you want to do, and we can we can manage him, knowing that we have the girls here, and we have Davion was young at the time. I think 2, 3 or 4, somewhere around there. His that's how old he was. If you feel, then I support that. So I give her much love for that, because if it wasn't for her, that it wouldn't have.
Exactly.
Right. So told the therapist that the grandparents were kind of like, we don't feel like that's what he needs right now, but we would love for you to stay in contact with him. Great. Goes out to Utah. He's there for a couple of years. I fly out to Utah, sometimes bring the family with me. He comes out here. He spends Christmas and Thanksgiving. And, so, really we were his family, all that time. So he then gets ready to leave to go from Utah to another facility. And at this point, I'm like, look, he doesn't need to continue to be in treatment centers. He needs family. That's what he needs. You know what I mean? He needs a father figure. He needs a mother figure.
Exactly.
He needs siblings. He needs that. And he has siblings. And like I said, once again, no shot anywhere, but he needs that consistently in his life. Like, kids, they need that. They need family. You know what I mean? And so, I told his grandparents, like, look, he needs to come with us. We'll take care of him. We'll get him on the straight and narrow. And so he ends up going to this place in Illinois for just like 3 months. This was right during COVID. And he goes there, and then they say, you know what? They gave me parental rights. And so he came out and moved out with us. Well, shoot. And now it's been 4 years, now. So he's 21. He moved out with us when he was 17. He's 21. He's doing great. He's working, he's a security officer. So it's funny. I said the Friday reference earlier. I write about top flight security. So every time, most of the time when he comes in the house and he's got his uniform on, I'm like, man, you tell on somebody today,
Exactly.
But no, so that's a shortened version of how he came about into our lives. Right. And so, being a father figure to him and being just support, man, like, talking to him, teaching him, coaching, just whatever it means to be a positive male father figure to him. Yes. Right. And so the girls, then him, and then my dude, my 10-year-old, you know, I hear on your podcast a lot of times people are like, oh, you know, when they see you with your boys, you know, like, oh, it's so cool. And, you know, they kind of give us, because I get that a lot, you know what I mean? Like they give us this, like these props for doing what I feel like
You're supposed to
do, you know what I mean? It's like, that's my guy, you know what I mean? And I'm supposed to take him fishing, and I say fishing, but he'll probably talk trash because I'm not a big fisherman. But take him to do these sporting things, and you know, and just hang out with him like it's my guy, you know what I mean? And so I am with him a lot, and I've heard, you know, that before. Oh, you're such a great dad, and you know, and all this, and I'm like, I mean, I appreciate it, you know what I mean? And I'm definitely, I like that more than hearing you're a bad dad, you know what I'm saying? So
there's that's the thing. I was talking to a couple of dads, like, if a mom, and I've said before, if a mom takes the kids to the zoo, like whatever, you're a mom.
What it is, right?
And if a dad takes kids to the zoo, you're like, so we have this every year. We have a picnic in the park, lunch in the park for the school.
Okay.
And so 2 years ago, I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, my kid, like, I know what they like to eat. I know what so I did the charcuterie. I had the picnic stuff. And everyone's looking at me like, what in God's name? Like, who are you? Like, talk to my husband, tell him to do this stuff. And like, it was funny because they thought I was like dad of the year just by bringing a lunch and just like making it nice. Had a blanket, had little plates and stuff like that. And and I was like, isn't this like what we're supposed to be doing? Like, this not anything special, but going back to the to your pretty much. I mean, it's funny, we have a very similar like career upbringing.
Okay.
So high school, there's that connection there. But when I got out of high school, I'm like, well, shoot, what do? I don't know if college is my thing. I don't want to go to the military. I got into the church. My mom was a pastor. My sister's a pastor. My grandparents. So I became a youth leader. Then I eventually became a youth pastor.
Okay.
And so that whole, and I'm 19, 20. I was a supervisor of a college campus house at 23 years old. So there's kids older than me that were in college that I was running a campus house, 2 old fraternities. There was like maybe 50 kids, boys, girls in there, all college kids that I was supervising. Like, well, I'm like sitting there, what were you guys thinking then? Like, come on now. Hey, but long story short, and then I was in, when you talk about treatment centers, I was in the ARC. So I went to YDDC every Thursday. I dealt with the kids in ARC, Albuquerque Reintegration Center, and then Albuquerque Boys Center. So Reintegration Center is the halfway house in a sense that they go into school, they have little jobs. So they're trying to reintegrate them back into society. That they've been in youth prison youth jail for a while, that they're trying to get them back in there. Usually a lot of the kids were serving like a youth life sentence. And this is them trying to get them back in society. And I remember one time at Solomon, I said before on the podcast, kid tapped my shoulders. Oh, Pastor Troy. I was like, oh, I'm not a pastor anymore, but hi, how's it going? It was one of the kids, and he was telling like, my whole thing, and the reason why I brought this up was what you're doing. As a dad, as a male, we have to give kids hope.
Definitely.
We have to show them that there's something different.
Definitely.
We have to show them support. Sure, like you said, he had his family. He had all this stuff. Treatment centers are good to a point.
To an extent,
But as men in this world, and I think men are very important. This is June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think I'm glad there's more light shining on things like that with men. But men, even if you're a dad, if you're a coach, you're a teacher, you're your uncle, you're a brother, you're a neighbor down the street. We have a vital part in our society, especially when it comes to youth. When it comes to youth males, especially because a lot of kids. I grew up without a dad. I mean, I had my uncles, and thank God I did. But a lot of my things I was picking up from different peers that was around. If it was either pastors or bosses or anything like that. I mean, I've been working at Home Authority Real Estate. This is year 12. And the guy who owns the company, look at him as a father figure. And I attached the people that I could trust, that I could lean on, and I could do that. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, that's our role. And I remember as a youth pastor, getting out of the youth group, and I still talk to a lot of the kids, still have a good rapport with a lot of the kids, boys and the girls. I've officiated some of their weddings. They've bought houses from me. Like, it's a lot of cool things, but coming down to it, when you're said, he need a family. And people think family has to be blood. People think family has to be in this, like, oh, I'm in a relational situation with this person. It takes a village to raise kids. It takes a real village to raise each other. And you saw that need, and you're like, you know what? This kid just needs love.
Yep.
Needs family.
Yep.
And when he went from Illinois, or was it Illinois' last?
No, Illinois. Yeah.
So from Albuquerque, or New Mexico, Utah, Illinois, coming here, did you see a change in him? Was it like he's still the same kid, but was there maybe any kind of like, oh, you know what, that's all he needed? Any kind of like push or anything of that nature?
So yes, he and I had talked, numerous times, while he was in treatment, numerous times about, him, the opportunity for him to come live out here and just, and I'll use this, loosely, but to be normal. Okay. He had been institutionalized from, if you think about it, from, I think 10 or 11 till 17. So, cell phones and, just different, he missed out on all of that stuff, you know what I mean? And so, to be normal, to go to just to go to a regular high school and to live in a place where, on a daily basis where he was at in treatment, somebody's getting restrained or somebody's yelling, screaming, fussing, fighting, punching, this, that, and that. That was every day for him, right? Him even being one of those at times, you know what I mean? And so, when that happened and we moved out here, I definitely saw a weight lifted off of his chest. You know what I mean? There was definitely a weight lifted off of his chest, and there was definitely some growing that needed to continue to happen because, just kind of for him being behind on a lot of things. The education system in treatment is different than the normal education. Yep. You know what I mean? So even just schooling and the basics, math, readings, all these different things, like it was difficult for him, and I would say to this day, it's still relative. There's certain things that he still struggles with, but he's now been in the real world for 4 years. There's a big learning curve. I mean, the positive piece for him is he has his family who's in Chicago. Yeah. And then he's got us. And I say us because his family, that he's developed from being with us, is my family, like my immediate family. My parents have been awesome. My wife's parents have been awesome. My Nashville family took him in, they love him to death, so the support that he's gotten, I do feel like, and I've told him this before, like if it's weird, right? We actually had a conversation the other day, because I coach a football team, my son's football team now. And this is how, the world is weird, man. The world is weird, right? So it's weird. The individual, that did that to him, right? That restrained him. His son's on my football team now. Wow. So he and Leo and I had this conversation, and we've had it a couple times where I've told him, I said, so here's my advice to him, a man's advice to him, right? Because, he's still struggling with forgiveness. And I don't blame him, you know what I mean? Like, if that would have happened to me personally, I don't know, right?
Exactly.
What I had to go through when that happened with him, was I had to work through some things myself with this individual, because that he was still a staff member there. Yeah. So it took me a year before I was able to even say a word to him, because I'll be real with you, like, I wanted to fight him, you know what I'm saying? Like, I told them, hey, he can't work anywhere in my house. If I'm there, I'm just letting y'all know, like, it just can't happen, And so it took about a year before I was able, and I had to do it for myself, because I had to move forward, right? Exactly. Like, so I did that anyway. So I told Leo, I asked him, I said, hey, I think you should come coach, right? He loves football, he's a heck of an athlete. And so I told him you should come coach the team. And I told him, I said, well, that kid, right? The guy, I don't want to bring up names, you know what I mean? But, he's on the team. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And so we had this long conversation. Me, my dad, and Leo was cool. We were in my dad's backyard smoking a cigar, had a glass of whiskey or something, you know what I mean? And we were talking and I'm going to get to my dad here in a minute too. But we had this conversation, and I explained to Leo, I said, look, I look at it this way. Had that situation never happened, which I wish it would have never happened,
we wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't be here.
Yep.
We wouldn't be sitting on this back patio right now. Yep. because what happened before that, none of us have control over, right? Precipitating factors, right? That what led you to the treatment center where I met you I had nothing to do with that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't, that situation is what brought you and I close. That situation is what got you here, because had that not happened, you would have went through the system.
Exactly. 17,
18, whatever. And in my opinion, I think he probably would have got himself in trouble because he didn't have the support that he needed. Yep. Is what it is, right? So, I'm trying to get him to see that, right? And once again, I can't make him make that choice or that decision to forgive.
Exactly.
What I told him, I said, hey, your job, I said, there's 26 kids on our football team. His son is one of them. Your job is to coach them if you're going to come out and coach, his son included. Doesn't mean you have to have conversation with him and be best friends. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all, right? You're coaching. You're here with me. Once again, the safe spot. You feel me? You're like, so that's where you're at. And I think it would be great for you to do, because he's great with kids, so Leo's great with kids. So it's a crazy situation, though. You know what I mean? Like, when I tell people kind of this story or how it all, has gone down, like, people are pretty shocked, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, this whole, we got this traveling football team that are studs. You know what I mean? We went to Vegas, by the way, and just whooped up on all the Vegas teams. There we go. Over there.
There we go. Let's go.
So,
Let's go.
Duke City Outlaws house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so 10U.
Donate to the link.
Donate to the 10U Duke City Outlaws. Hey, if you got a 10U kid out there that wants to play football, and holla at me. So anyway,
I'm trying to get my boys want to play, but the mom's like,
And you know what? Honestly, at our level right now, man, like, I wouldn't just throw any team on our man.
Exactly.
But anyway, like I said, it's crazy, man. And for me, it's more growth for him. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I continue to feed water the plant and give him the tools to grow and become a man himself? He's 21, but like, he's still learning. You know what I mean?
I'm still man. I'm 39. I'm still.
Hey, man, I'm 46. I'm still learning, bro. So,
But yeah, that's. I mean, you brought up a lot of great points there. I mean, the main thing is for yourself with the staff member was, as men, we're very easy. We're not very outward with. I mean, we were not taught to be express your feelings.
Express your feelings. Yeah.
I express my feelings with my fists,
for sure,
or I just shut down. Like, it's either I'm just not going to mess with you. But it's what I teach my boys: do not hold on to anything. If you got an issue with someone, talk it out.
Yeah.
Even if the conversation doesn't come to a resolution, you got it out, move forward.
Yeah.
Because especially as men, if we harbor resentment and anger and angst and all this stuff, it's going to eventually come to a boiling point.
Definitely.
Where if it's with this person or someone else, it's not going to come out well.
Yeah.
And to show and to be vulnerable to telling your son, like, hey, this is how I was with them. Like, I get it. I understand. Like, I'm not telling you to be best friends. I'll tell you to forgive them. But this is a way for you to heal and learn. Because, sure, if that situation wasn't ideal, yet it was ideal enough that, hey, man, look at us now. Like, look, we're in the backyard with your grandpa, with you and me. We're just having a good time, just being men, just talking, just releasing any feelings or anything that we have to harbor in or anything like that. And I think that's important, especially for guys.
Definitely.
I mean, I was talking to my good friend Gabby. He wants to be a dad. He's not a dad.
Okay.
And we were just having a heart-to-heart the other day. And just like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, man. Like, mentally, this is where I'm at. That is very important, especially as fathers to our sons. There's been days where I said that I was golf. We've been golfing a bunch. We
got to go, because I golf. My son, he doesn't necessarily golf, but he's got clothes.
Let me know when.
Most of that.
We're going. And I started 2 months ago.
Okay.
And I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I got an eagle at Ladera.
Okay.
Dude, Ladera Executive 9, hole 8.
Ladera Executive. Okay.
So that is a par 4. I hit it, and I was like, and I got upset. This is another dad learning lesson, because we're there golfing. The boys are sitting there, and I was like, hey guys, like, watch my ball.
Yeah.
Watch my ball, because I'm focused on. Because I always look up and it just goes 2 feet. So I hit it, and it felt good.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, where did it go? And he pulls up his rangefinder. I'm like, you're not going to see crap with that, dude. I need your 2 eyes. Where did the ball go? And ironically, there was 8 dudes in front of us. Oh, and they're all like college-age kids. And I knew 2 of them because they're Ravens fans and they go to our flock.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? They're like, so they're in front of us and we're just sitting there playing. And I'm sitting there like, man, And so I driving around, they're all, Troy, your ball's right here. Like, right where? And I have a picture. It's right where, here's the hole, is right on the hill.
Yeah.
Like, just, I was like, wait, what? I was like, my bad guys. Like, no, we were so shocked.
Yeah.
Like, we thought it came from like someone else that crossing crossing from a different hole.
Oh yeah.
And I was fired up. I was like, let's go. So fired up. And then, of course, there's par 4.
Yeah.
So I go there. I'm like, okay, if I get it in 2, that's great. If I get it in 3, then we have a bird. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And I'm sitting there, nice little chips, and I was like, are you kidding me? Of course, that's the next time I went out, I play like crap.
Oh, that's all.
But you get the one shot, you play well, right? So we will go.
Okay.
But I remember yelling, like, come on, I'm supposed to look up. Like it. And then it was like, it's not your fault.
Right.
The thing is, I should know where my ball is going. I should be savvy enough, like, am I going to draw it? I'm going to hook it. I'm going to do a fade. Like, I should, like, and so then I apologize to them. But it was that whole thing of, like, we're driving, we're playing again. And though actually it was just Camden and I, we played Unum North. And he was like, Dad, what's the matter? Like, you okay? I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's just been a little stressful.
Yeah.
And I never, like, had, like, a true, like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Usually, kids is fine. Everything's fine. World's fine. It's not ending. It's not, but I was like, this is where I'm feeling. Like, I'm a little anxious about work. Had a couple of deals that didn't work out. Then ironically, they're back on track and everything's good. But having that conversation with them, being vulnerable with them, he was like, it's okay, Dad. We're here. Like, we're okay. We're okay. And that's going to teach them, not just here now, it's going to teach them later, like, it's okay to talk. It's okay to vent. It's okay to say things. And I think that moment, the three of you guys, just at least me visualizing, three of you guys talk about a situation. And it's not a light situation. I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to see this guy.
Right.
And there's trauma probably built into that. And there's a lot of things, especially if we all know that maybe it wasn't him, that the reason why it happened, that it was a little more than what was told. But I think right there, that's a huge stepping stone in teaching and showing your son how to act, react, and how to move on. Because as dads, especially to boys, we don't really know how to express that too much, and or show them it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say your piece, even if you feel like, because you say, no, you're fine. You're okay. It's going to be okay. So that happened 10 years ago. Like, you're okay. Like, it's easy for us to just kind of mask it, cover it. So, because that's the easy thing to do, just move on. Instead of really, okay, let's see where you're at type of thing. So, I know you wanted to mention your dad. Segue over there, sitting in the backyard and everything like that.
Yeah. So, the how to father podcast, right? Like, thinking about it, and knowing that I was going to be on it, really kind of made me look at it. And I feel like I took a lot of lessons from my dad, right? My dad was dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still here. I said my dad was dope. My dad is dope, right? But growing up, we weren't that close. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he only knew, he knew how to father from his experience. You know what I'm saying? And when I became a father, like biological son, right? Like, when I became a father, one of the things that I said to myself is, like, I'm definitely going to raise my son with the values and morals that my dad raised me with. Because, a lot of the things that he taught me growing up, which may not have made a lot of sense growing up, as a man, as a father, they make sense, right?
Exactly.
That being said, it's also some tweaking that needs to happen on some of those things, right? Because, one of the things that in thinking back, one of the things I was like, man, I wish me and my dad are super cool now. Like, and that's what it was. Like when I become a man, now we're friends. You know what I'm saying? We're friends when you're a man. I wish we'd have been friends when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, we've talked, you know what I'm saying? And so I wish we'd have been friends when I was a kid, right? Like, with my son, my biological son, like, that's my guy, man. Like, that's, that's we are friends, you know what I mean? And, the relationship between he and I is so strong. The bond is so strong. But, a lot of that is still things that I'm teaching him that my dad taught me. My dad's super involved in my son's life. So, he's still learning manly things from from his grandfather and his other grandfather. But some of the things that we're, the vulnerability to being able to express yourself, those things, which I don't feel like that was, I don't feel like growing up, like that's what was taught to me. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you're upset about this. Let's talk about it, or even like my dad, if he saw, maybe he handled the situation incorrectly. And maybe he recognized it, but I'm the dad, you're the son, so I don't need to apologize to you, or I don't need to, and I'm not saying that's what he thought, but I'm just saying like that's, that's probably how it went, right? Where what I've learned, and whether that's through, I think a good majority of that, excuse me, is from the work that I do working with kids, and that, for me, I think a lot of it comes from that, but it's tied in with, how I was raised by my dad, my mom, both of them, but this is how the father, right?
Exactly.
So, how the things that he taught me, but, it's important for me to if I snap at my son, or if I get onto it, I always go back to him and I apologize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I apologize to him. I'm like, hey man, my bad. Like, this is how dad felt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, I could have dealt with that differently. You know what I mean? But I, I let my emotions take control, and I snapped, or I raised my voice, or, and I saw how that made you react and feel, and so forth and so on. And I'm going to work on it and get better. You know what I mean? And these are conversations I have with my 10-year-old, you know what I mean?
Like, you have to.
You have to. I want him to be tough, you know what I'm saying? But I also want him to be, in touch with himself and how he feels, and be okay with expressing himself
exactly
to whomever that may be. You know what I mean?
If you silence them now, they're going to be silenced forever.
Most definitely.
And like you said, this is the reason why I started this podcast was that this whole patriarchal idea of like, throw some dirt on it, talk to your mom, you're fine, you're okay. Listen, not because I said so, because I'm the dad. And you know what? I had that, and so I realized, like, wait, I need to stop this. Because I was raised by a very strong, she's still a very strong, proud Black woman who was the Army. She was a drill sergeant. She was, oh man, it was pretty much like, yes, ma'am. And we were terrified. We were terrified of her. But that's the whole thing, is like, as dads, we can be empathetic. We can apologize. We can. But the thing is, like you said, like with my kids, like, I'm still their dad. But we're still gonna have fun. We were at UNM North, just Camden night. He smokes a drive. And I don't care. I'm like, let's go. That's right. And it's like, hit a ball. So we're all fired up, like chest bumping, like we're like hyped. We're like, let's go. And then the next hole, wasn't that great? Hey, it's all good. Shake it off. I saw his head, like, because golf is a mental game. So all the head kind of. I was like, Camden, keep it up here. You got to keep it right. You keep it good up here, everything's gonna be fine. You're as good as your next shot. Your last shot, I tell them when they play basketball, when they do soccer, I tell everyone when I coach, you are as good as your next play.
For sure.
Your last play was great, but you can't live off your last play. You're as good as your next play. You miss it, get back and make it again. And so then, of course, at the very end, we're like, that was fun. This is great. But that's the thing. It's when it comes to being a dad, we have to be, I would say, the two most important things. I love you and I'm sorry.
Most definitely.
We have to let them know, like, hey, as much as we're Superman to you, there's kryptonite, and we got a lot of it, and we're still learning. Like, there was no manual for us.
No.
When we came, like, sure, we did the birthing classes, like, oh, this is how you burp a baby, change a diaper, put him to sleep, put him in a little like waddle blanket, or stuff like that. This is how you hold the kid. But there was nothing about like, this is how you raise a kid. This is how you like. Because then all we know is what we were taught.
Definitely.
And what a lot of dads are doing now are taking on what, like you said, I'm going to take on the values that my dad taught me. I'm going to take that, I'm going to use that, but I'm going to tweak it in a way where the relationship your dad and yourself have right now, I want that with my kid right now. And so when we get older, then our relationship is even stronger. Even stronger bond. And that's something that, like, that's the reason why I started playing golf was like, I know I won't be able to be playing soccer or basketball with these kids. I was playing basketball the other day, man, and I was balling these dudes up. I'm not gonna lie, I'm busting these dudes up. And I go and I do a Euro step. My knee was like, nope. And I was like, no, I'm done. And it was funny because Ruby was like, just don't jump so high and don't run so fast. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm doing it. No, I got this. And then, of course, like the first guy I play, he has no left hand. I'm like, oh, this is easy. This is going to be. And I'm looking at these players, the warming up. Like, oh, this is the easy stuff. Easy stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I'm there like, get in the post. Like, dude, I'm a point guard.
Yeah.
This isn't the tallest guy here. Like, I'm a point guard, and everyone just sits on a 3-point line trying to serve threes. Look, man, just makes a cut. Like I could put this ball wherever you want. I don't even have to look at you. No look passes. I was like, I came up, and I remember this guy. I see him on the 3-point line. He does a jab step, so I came up and I like faked the pass here. I felt like old school Magic Johnson, back of the hand. The dude jab step, went back to the 3-point line. I'm like, dude, you got cut with me, bro. Layup, easy. And so then, of course, messed up my knee. I was like, you know what? I want to do a game that I could play when I get older with the kids. That I want to have those memories now with them. So then when I'm older and they're in their college age or whatever, they have a family. Like, hey, Dad, let's go golfing. And so I think so that's an important thing. It's like I still want to be Dad, but I still want to be there. They're my dudes, like you said. Those are those are my buddies. Like, we have fun, we hang out, we have our little mannerisms, and Mom gets bugged 90% of the time. We are all, when we're in our zone together, but it's just,
we're going to throw this ball in the house. I'm just letting you are going to throw this ball in the house.
Exactly. And then she looks away, that's just how it goes. But, I mean, I really feel like, so question with, now you have 2 beautiful stepdaughters, 2 sons adopted and your own. And I know with your stepdaughters, you had to mold your parenting style different because those weren't your kids in a sense. You helped raise, but still weren't your kids. When it comes to your 2 sons and your stepdaughter, did you feel like you had to draw back, push forward, or was it all pretty uniform in your fathering?
I think it was all pretty uniform in my fathering. You probably have to ask them. But I do think it was pretty uniform.
Okay.
They would probably say that I let, my 10-year-old get away with way more stuff than I let them get away with. And there's probably some truth in that, you know what I mean? Because it just is what it is. But, I think it was uniform for the most part. I really tried to be fair as much as possible, right? Like, I really tried to listen, to whatever was going on with them, and try to base my parenting or my advice around the entirety of the situation as opposed to just like one side of it. I think I try to do a good job of that because, for every situation that takes place with anyone, there's your side and then there's the other side and then there's like that middle where it pretty much lies, right? And so, I want, my son, I want him to, my biological son, right? I want him to understand that, like, it's not all one way or the other. It's very rare is it just one way or the other. You know what I mean? That you have to be willing and able to kind of listen to both sides or listen to your side and the other person's side and, try to talk it out and figure it out. And so, like I said, I do feel like I was pretty even, with all 3 of them. I think with the boys, I definitely tougher on the boys.
Yep.
Because that's the man piece, right? Like me being raised as a man, me being a male and testosterone and this, that, and the other, right? So, I mean, there's definitely tougher, I would say, on the boys to some extent. But still, there's always that piece of emotional intelligence, and that I've tried to instill with them, as for sure. So
I think you're correct on that. When it comes to being boys, and I talk to a lot of dads on both ends. Of course, I have 2 boys,
for sure,
and everything. But talking with them, you have to be stern and strict and hard with these boys because the world's going to be that.
Yeah,
and sure with girls as well. But there's a different way to go about it. Like with boys, I mean, I was always like, you draw a line in the sand, and then their mom was like, no. I was like, and we had a real big contention with them. Like,
for sure,
you have to understand, I'm raising men. I'm not raising toddlers. I'm not raising elementary age kids. We're raising men here.
Definitely.
And if they feel like they could teeter with doing something responsibility or do something they're not supposed to do, then when they get older, the world gets bigger and scarier and consequences get higher. And if right now I can say, no, you're not doing this, and this is the reason why, I'm not going to say no because I said so.
Right.
I'm going to say no because here's the reason why.
Here's the reason why, right.
And you try to pull that back from me, like, it's not going to work out well. Because if they can't listen to no from me, they're not going to listen to no from anyone else out there. And that's a scary thing. And that's a very harsh reality with, like, boys. Like, even if they start dating, when they start dating their girlfriends or whatever, they go to a party and then they feel like something's going to happen and the girl says no. It's like, oh, but we're already this, that, another. If they can't get that fundamental no in their head and saying, like, let's survey the big picture, and we have to start at this young age. Yet at the same time, like you said, with emotional intelligence, not saying no because I said so, no because you're wrong and I'm right, no because I know better than you, but no, and here's the reason why. And here are the potential consequences from it.
For sure.
And so being stronger and sterner with the boys is very important, yet at the same time with that healthy balance. And then again, that's another reason why I started this, because every episode I'm like taking notes, mental notes. I'm like I've learned so much from this conversation here. And I always go back and listen, like, oh yeah, you know what? That makes sense. And I apply it to my lives, dad to my kiddos, as an uncle to all my nieces and nephews and everything like that. And so it's something that, and then all the kids I'm interacting with just in the world. But there's something very important about what you said when it comes to being strict, but having emotional intelligence. And a lot of men, we don't know. We never knew how to.
Definitely.
We just like shut up, put dirt on it, figure it out. You're okay. Running off. And it's the coaching too. Like, you're fine. Get up, go. Get back in the game. And there's a lot of times, like, especially I coach soccer, so there's a lot of times you're like, all right, buddy.
Yeah, shake that off. I know. Yeah,
exactly.
That happened to me today.
Watch the girls playing soccer. They're elbowing each other, and they got busted lips, and they're just still running. The boys are like, they're rolling for 30 miles. All this stuff like that. You guys watch too much Neymar and stuff up there. But it's something that's, I mean, I think wrapping it all up, it's just like, you've shown a lot of different layers of fatherhood that honestly could, in one lifetime, as you're still continuing as a father, that a lot of people will need different, like 20 different dads to even like come close to where you're at. I mean, you're a stepdad to two girls. In the stepdad thing, you were the mediator to keep the cordialness between mom and their dad. You now coach football with their dad. And now you went through and you did all this wonderful work, MCI, whatever. They're not even a company anymore. See, they're lost. If they kept you on, man, they might still be.
I don't know about that. I may be the reason that they closed.
Yeah, probably. But you found a calling when it comes to youth and helping out the treatments and everything like that, to the point where you saw a kid in need and that now is your son. And then you have your own son and probably taking the values as a stepfather, as an adoptive father, and now as a son, father to your biological, which you probably like, these are just my kids. Like, if you're not adopted, you're not biological, you're just my kids.
Just my kids,
and then having that understanding of the relationship with your dad now, and knowing, like, and deciphering the difference between what I wanted to take from him to what I need to evolve as a father. And then now with the whole situation with your son potentially coaching football with another kid, that kind of how it all started up. It's a very full circle, just kind of like, man, you need to send a script to Netflix and get this set up. But I think it's the important thing is you show, like you said, emotional intelligence when it comes to fathering. Again, we're still figuring this out. Still figuring it out. But at the end of the day, I mean, it was funny. Those kids are so quiet forever. I was like, what are they doing?
I was trying to figure it out too.
And now you hear them running around and doing all this stuff like that. And it's funny because we can hear it now, but when I do the cleanup, we won't hear a peep
for sure
from them. But it's cool to see, like, a lot of kids they're very shy and timid. I was like, and at first you saw them on the couch, and I was like, oh, here's the Ed Reed thing. He was like, thank you, sir. And they're all sitting there, and now they're just roaming around, just being kids. And that's a testament to who you are as a dad. And I think with this episode, a lot of people are going to learn a lot, maybe resonate some, and really show that, hey, it's not about me, it's about them.
It's about them.
That's it.
It's about them, man. Yeah,
that's sure.
It. Well, once again, Troy, appreciate it, man.
Oh, thank you.
I truly appreciate giving me the opportunity to come in here and talk with you, and keep doing it.
Yeah.
I've learned. Like I said, once I started episode 1, bro, I couldn't stop. Like I just said, I'm driving. It takes me 40 minutes to get to work every day. I was on an episode, And I think I told you when we sat down and talked, there was one thing, like one of the main things that I took, it was on your last episode of the first season where you had asked your kids, what can you do to be a better father, right? And
I was nervous, man.
I'm sure, because I was too, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I said, you know what, I'm going to ask Davion, I'm going to ask him, what is it that I can do to be a better father, right? And so what he told me, and I told him, think about it, because I asked him on the way to school one morning, I said, think about it. I don't want you to, worry about my feelings or anything like that. I want you to truly tell me what it is, right? So he thought about it, and he told me after school, he was like, I want you, when you say, and I like that he said it this way to me, because it also tells me that he's listening to he's listening to me when I'm telling him how to express himself.
Exactly.
So he says, when you tell me I'm being drama, it hurts my feelings, right? Well, I'm being dramatic, it hurts my feelings. And I said, you know what, son? I hear you. And, I'm going to try. I said, I can't promise that I'm never going to say it, because sometimes dad gets emotional at times, as well, and so, what I will say is that I'm going to give a very concerted effort to not say that. And I think from that day to this point, I don't think I've said it. I may have said it once or twice. I don't know. But if I did say it, I'm pretty sure I apologized to him afterwards, because that's a big thing for me with him, is that if I get too overly anything, I apologize to him, and I always talk to him like a young man, like he's a young man.
Are kids talking to each other? Because Camden told me the same. Yeah. He's like, Dad, when you say like, I'm being like dramatic, really this, like, it hurts my feelings.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, well, you are, man. Oh man. I mean, I said it the last episode. I was like, Camden, man, your attitude is not that great, but what's going on? He's like, my attitude's fine, Dad. I think you're the one with the attitude. Wow. What? I didn't realize. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it tells me. It tells me. But yeah, see, and that's one thing. I mean, I tell people, be vulnerable with your kids. Yeah. Have their best interests at heart. Don't let the idea of being a perfect dad take you away from being a good dad. Yeah. We're still learning. We're gonna stumble. We're gonna fumble. We're gonna do a lot of things that we probably shouldn't do. Say a lot of things we shouldn't say. Yeah. And we might say, "I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say it again." It might come up again. Mm-hmm. That's why that beautiful word is "I'm sorry." And when you're sorry, make the valiant effort, because you say, "I'm sorry." Oh, did it again. I'm sorry, but I did it again. And then your kids, because they see it, they're smarter than we think. They pick up on things. You probably didn't think that was going to be his response.
I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to be.
It's going to be that.
Well, that's buy me some. You don't buy me enough, whatever. That's why I thought it'd be something like that
to take me to Target, Hoppers or whatever the case is. But so we always finish the dad joke.
Yeah.
I'll let you do the honors. I'll throw my cheesy one in, and we'll go from there.
All right. So. What is so you know what an axolotl is, right?
Yeah. All
right, what's the axolotl's favorite thing to do on vacation?
Axolotl's favorite thing to do on vacation?
Relaxolotl.
I mean, that's pretty good. My boys love axolotls too.
Sure.
I have to tell them a joke. I'll see if I can remember it now. Okay, it's superhero, Marvel. Marvel superheroes of the boys there. Why doesn't Marvel use the Hulk for all their advertisement?
I don't know. Why not?
I don't know. He's one big banner.
Bruce Banner.
Yeah, see
what you see is that.
I see what you go.
All right.
Dwight, thank you so very much for being on. This is episode 2 of How to Father. Again, plug the football team.
Yeah. Hey, 10U Duke City Outlaws, Papa Warner, reach out.
National champ.
The D1 West Coast national champs. To be honest, we're ranked 3rd on the West Coast. It's a team from California. I'm not even going to give them I'm not even going to say their names. It's one team from California, another team from California, and then it's Duke City Outlaws, 3 in the West Coast.
Let's go stand up. Let's go stand up. So look them up. Go. I mean, there's a website, Facebook.
Yeah, just Pop Warner. Go to Pop Warner and the Duke City Outlaws. Like, once again, if you are interested in traveling and playing and playing against some good competition out there and kind of getting to see teams outside of just Albuquerque. You know what I mean? Hit me up.
Yeah, and I mean, as you heard, he's a wonderful father, and I appreciate
it.
He's a great coach. So once again, thank you everyone for listening. How to Father Season 2, Episode 2. I'm excited to hear this one back, and we got to do it again. Let's get on the course, too.
I'm down.
The balls.
Man, we got to go to the lake, too, bro.
Yeah, we got to do a lake. Yeah, we're supposed to. So our goal was supposed to go to the lake today.
Yeah.
We're going to do some paddle boarding, got some kayaks, maybe throw a fishing rod in there, too. But the weather said we're going to have storms all day. It's still sunny outside.
Hot outside.
It's hot. Yeah, exactly. It would have been nice to be in the lake, but we'll do that. We'll all hang out soon, and then if you got any games in town, for sure we'll have to go watch.
Most definitely.
All right, brother.
All right.
Good seeing you.
Appreciate
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
See you guys next time. Peace.